What if everything you learned about Judas was wrong? What if instead of a traitor, he was actually Jesus' true chosen one? What you are about to discover may challenge everything you know about the history of Christianity. In 2006, an ancient manuscript emerged, revealing a completely different version of the story of Judas Iscariot, a text that remained hidden for more than 1,700 years and contradicts the traditional biblical narrative. But why was this gospel kept secret for so many centuries? And most importantly, what does it reveal about the future and the times we are living in? The Gospel of Judas is one of the most controversial apocryphal texts ever discovered. It suggests that Judas not only knew what he was doing, but that his betrayal was actually requested by Jesus himself. This account could completely change our understanding of Judas's role and the true meaning of the events leading to the crucifixion. In this video, we will explore this forbidden text, its shocking revelations, and what it might mean for 2025. Get ready. This story will challenge your beliefs. The story of the Gospel of Judas begins in an unexpected place, Egypt. It was there between the 1970s and 1980s that this manuscript was found in a cave. Written in Coptic, an ancient Egyptian language, it remained hidden for nearly 2,000 years. But what happened after its discovery was a series of events worthy of a suspense thriller. The text was smuggled, sold on the black market, and for years remained in the hands of private collectors. Only in 2006, after a meticulous scientific analysis, did experts confirm its authenticity. This gospel is part of the so-called Gnostic texts, a group of ancient writings that offer different interpretations of early Christian tradition. The Gnostic Gospels were rejected by the Church in the first centuries of Christianity and were eventually considered heretical. But what makes the Gospel of Judas so different is that it not only contradicts the traditional version of Judas's story, but also presents a completely new perspective on Jesus and his teachings. The translation and publication of this text sparked great controversy because its message questions the very foundation of Christian doctrine. If Judas was not a traitor, as tradition has taught us, then who was he really? More than that, what can this manuscript reveal about Jesus' hidden teachings? In the next few minutes, we will delve into the words of this forbidden text and understand the impact it can have on our understanding of Christianity and history. Now that we know how this gospel was found, we need to understand its content. What is really written in it, and why were these words considered dangerous? Stay with us. What exactly is written in the Gospel of Judas? Why was this text considered so dangerous that it had to be hidden for nearly 2,000 years? The answer lies in its pages, which present a completely different version of Jesus' final days and his relationship with Judas Iscariot. According to this gospel, Judas was not a traitor, but the closest disciple to Jesus, the only one who truly understood his mission. According to the manuscript, it was Jesus himself who instructed Judas to hand him over to the authorities because it was part of a greater plan. Instead of betrayal, the text suggests that Judas was fulfilling an essential role in the redemption of humanity. Another shocking aspect of the Gospel of Judas is that it portrays a Jesus completely different from the one described in traditional Gospels. Here, he appears as a master who transmits secret teachings only to Judas, revealing hidden truths about the universe, God, and the destiny of humanity. The text suggests that the official version of Christianity was manipulated over the centuries to conceal these truths. Additionally, the gospel presents a radical view of God and the creation of the world. Instead of a single, all-powerful God, the text suggests the existence of multiple deities and claims that the God of the Old Testament is not the true, supreme God. These ideas contradict the core beliefs of traditional Christianity and explain why this gospel was so strongly rejected by the church. If the Gospel of Judas contains such impactful revelations, why was it forbidden? What were religious authorities so afraid of? And even more importantly, does this text contain anything that could warn us about the future? In the next chapter, we will understand why the church decided to hide this gospel and what the consequences of that decision were. Why was the Gospel of Judas forbidden? The Gospel of Judas represents a direct threat to the official narrative of Christianity. If it were accepted, the entire foundation of traditional faith would have to be rewritten. The early church, which consolidated its power in the first centuries, could not allow such a text to gain influence. But how exactly was it forbidden? In the 4th century, when Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, Emperor Constantine and church leaders decided which texts would be included in the Bible and which would be considered heretical. The Gnostic Gospels, including the Gospel of Judas, were banned and condemned. Those who possessed copies of these texts were persecuted, and many of these writings were destroyed. But why so much fear? The main reason was the power this gospel gave to Judas. He was not a villain, but an enlightened disciple. This weakened the idea of sin and betrayal, fundamental concepts for Christian doctrine. Moreover, the gospel's ideas about God and the universe contradicted official theology. If this gospel had been accepted, the history of Christianity would have taken a completely different path. But there is something even more intriguing. Does this text contain any predictions about the future? Now, let's analyze whether the Gospel of Judas holds clues about 2025 and the destiny of humanity. The Council of Nicaea, held in the year 325, was a decisive turning point in the history of Christianity, where the Church gathered to determine which texts would be considered official. During this event, the Gospels that would be recognized as part of the New Testament were chosen, while others were banned or deemed heretical. The selection was strategic, reflecting the desire to centralize power and Christian doctrine under a single authority. These banned Gospels were often considered dangerous because they offered an alternative view of Jesus' life and teachings, challenging conventions and the Church's control. The Church feared knowledge that was considered forbidden. Texts, such as the Gospel of Thomas or the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, contained ideas that contradicted the official narrative. The Gospel of Thomas, for example, presents a more individualistic approach to salvation, focusing on self-knowledge and inner discovery rather than faith based on religious dogma. Meanwhile, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene offers a different interpretation of the role of women in the early days of Christianity, something the medieval church was unwilling to accept. These texts not only questioned the authority of church leaders, but also provided a radically different perspective on the nature of Jesus and his teachings. These forbidden Gospels are often classified as Gnostic texts, which emphasize esoteric knowledge and spiritual enlightenment as a means to reach divine truth. For the Church, allowing the circulation of these writings could undermine its influence by spreading a more pluralistic and open version of the Christian faith. As a result, throughout history, these texts were suppressed, buried, and marginalized. However, in recent times, they have begun to be reevaluated, offering new insights into early Christianity and its rich diversity. The complex and often hidden layers of Christian history, focusing primarily on the issue of banned Gospels and the narrative surrounding Judas, reveal that the Council of Nicaea played a fundamental role in selecting the texts that make up the Bible as we know it today. Many Gospels that provided different interpretations and challenged the Church's authority were left out. Texts like the Gospel of Judas and the Gospel of Thomas reveal a broader and, in many cases, more liberating view of faith. These Gospels not only challenge traditional versions of events, but also raise profound questions about the roles of key figures such as Jesus and his disciples, including Judas. In particular, the story of Judas, often seen as the greatest betrayal in history, is told very differently in these banned texts. In the Gospel of Judas, he is portrayed not as a traitor, but as someone fulfilling a divine role, obeying a higher order to help Jesus accomplish his destiny. This perspective not only challenges the traditional perception, but also makes us reflect on how historical narratives can be manipulated to align with the interests and powers of the time. Now, we want to hear your opinion. Do you believe that this version of Judas's story could be the true one? Or is the traditional version still the only one that makes sense? Leave your comment below and share your thoughts with us. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to keep following the mysteries of history and faith. Oh, and if you want to learn more about what we discussed in this video regarding the Gospel of Thomas, just click on the card above and watch the video, What is so dangerous about the Gospel of Thomas that it was hidden for over 1,600 years? You'll be surprised.